Okay, guys, I hope this works a little bit better. Tyrese, I wanted to be able to tag you in this because this one is definitely for you. The question was posed earlier, and let me just recap. The question was posed earlier by Mr. Tyrese Lynn. And the question that he posed was, what constitutes a real man? If you were listening to the previous video, I alluded to my thoughts of what constitutes a real man. And I really sincerely feel like it's something that the answers are going to vary, Tyrese. And I'm trying to give you a minute to get on so you can see and hear what I'm saying, because I think that what happens is I think the answers are going to be contingent upon who's asking the question. I do believe that. I believe that sometimes we put titles on things that we don't need a title on. Like real man. Well, all men are real. But I guess the question is, what constitutes I don't know what the term would be. I don't even know what term we would use to more or less describe or operationalize what we're trying to say. But I will say this. When I think about what you said, what constitutes a real man, I instantly reflect on my dad. And a couple of days ago, I don't know if you saw my post, but I talked about the biggest loss of my life coming some years ago. And so before I really answer the question, I'm going to tell you about it. So in 2004, the 4th of July to be exact, I lost my daddy. And the reality is that I lost him 5 years prior to Alzheimer's disease. And if anybody knows about dementia and Alzheimer's, you will know that it is the most debilitating mental illness out there. Dementia and Alzheimer's are illnesses that rob an individual of who they are, and it even goes so far as in the end stages, it robs them of the ability to know when to eat, to know when to walk, and just so much more. And so when I had to think about your question all day, Tyrese. I had to think about your question all day because what kept coming up to me is what my dad used to do before he got sick. And one of those things that he used to do before he got sick was my dad would, most people know that my dad drove tractor trailer. And so, even when he retired, because y'all know my dad was older, he retired when I was like in first or second grade. But he kept working. But what I remember him doing is, I remember that even when he got off work, he would make sure the grass was cut. He would make sure all the cars were in running condition. He would make sure that my brother and I knew he was home and that we were good. He would make sure my mom was good. And he would make sure that we had family time. Like, if we didn't eat breakfast together that morning, he would make sure we ate lunch and dinner. So, when I think about that, that's what I think about a real man being. I think of a real man being someone who is strong but sensitive. Someone who knows when to be firm and when to be gentle. A man, and I don't even want to say a real man, a man is someone who will lay his life down for his family. But a man is also someone who knows when to step back and let things happen and unfold naturally. A man knows who he is and doesn't need validation from others. And I think that all of these things, I know you said, ladies, what constitutes a real man, and I'm open to the discussion, but honestly, Tyrese, and like I said, this is for you. Yes, Latricia, he is a provider and a protector. He is. But I truly feel like if in fact we are going to define a man, we need to define him, by his strength, by his ability to lead. Because the reality is that I see more women leading households than men. And growing up in a two-parent home, all I saw was strength. That's all I saw. Never once did I have to wonder if my daddy was coming home, or did I need to wonder, where he was and stuff like that. So I think a real man is also accessible. A real man is accessible, meaning that doesn't mean that he got to be up under you 24/7 or you got to be up under him 24/7. But what accessible means is that he's always within reach, whether that's mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. You have to know exactly, Latricia, you have to know who the head is. But in order to be the head, you got to have a neck to hold you up. So it's just, defining a man is a comprehensive task. And it's hard. It's really hard because we live in a 21st century where men are now being defined out of the norm, and it's hard to really definitively say, oh, well, this is what a man is, because at the end of the day, so many people don't know what a man is, or people don't know what a man in a family situation is supposed to do. Why? Because they've never seen it before. So, Tyrese, I say that to say this. It's hard for me to definitively say what a man is, because what I know a man to be is from what I saw from my dad. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh, this, because I tell people all the time, I feel like, and I'm biased, I feel like I had the best daddy in the world. And I tell people this all the time. You cannot tell me anything. You could tell me that my dad was the worst person in the world, but to me, he was my hero. And so I say that to say, there are a lot of people who are out here looking and searching and getting in all types of unhealthy situations off the strength of not having a real man around to definitively show them or operationalize what a man is and what a man does. So when you ask me to define, or when you ask me what constitutes a real man, it's hard for me to really operationalize that from the standpoint of all women, because all women are not me. I am not all women. But Tyrese, if I had to give you a specific answer, and if I had to speak for the majority of females that I know, I believe the majority of them would say that a real man is one that could take care of them in the household. And that's just real. Because we live in a society now where everyone feels entitled. Now, is that what I feel like a real man is? Heck no. Not at all. But that's just because I saw something different. I saw something different in my home. So, like I said earlier, the real man that I saw was a provider. He was a protector, but he was also gentle and meek and mild, when need be. I don't know. I will say this, Tyrese. I enjoy the fact that you reach out to me for information. I enjoy the fact that you reach out to me to discuss these things. And so I'm hoping you're watching, because I want to make sure that I'm answering all your questions. But I will say this. I think that what has to happen is that, number one, we have to begin to self-assess, and we have to be honest with ourselves. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that we see everybody else's flaws and bullshit, but we don't see what's going on with us. And so when you ask a female, what constitutes a real man, 9 times out of 10, what they're going to do is they're going to talk about what they see on TV, or they're going to talk about what they've heard, or they're going to speak on what sounds good to them based off of where they are in their lives. And to me, that's fairy tale. That's la la land. My reality is this. My reality is that the only way you can define what a real man is if, number one, you are a man who is handling his business, or if you are a woman who is in a situation with a man who is handling his business, who definitively is being what the Bible speaks of, that a man is to do, and what a man is to be, and who a man is to be. That's about, I don't know. I struggle with this topic because I'm biased. I'm very biased. And I'm biased because, once again, I'm going to continue to say, I had a good daddy. And because I had such a good dad, I don't think about, when you ask the question, what's a real man, I legit don't think about money. When you talk about what's a real man, when you ask that question, the first thing I thought about was my daddy laying in the floor with me and my brother, playing with us with our toys. That's what I thought about. I thought about my mom, my dad, my brother, and I getting in the caddy, going on a road trip. That's what I thought about. I thought about the Saturday mornings, waking up, going with my dad and my brother to visit the sick and shut-in members of the church. That's what I thought about, because that's what a real man is to me. A real man to me puts himself last. That's just what I saw all my life. That may not be realistic. That may not be what to you constitutes a real man as a man. Or that may be not to you what constitutes a real man based off of the situation that you're in now. But I know for me, and being transparent, I know for me That's a big part of the reason it's so hard for me to engage in a relationship at this point in life, because I am at a point in life where I know what I'm going to put up with and what I'm not going to put up with. And with that being stated, I know that my daddy was the only man in this world that maneuvered the way he maneuvered. His brothers didn't maneuver the way he maneuvered. Now, I don't know if my granddaddy maneuvered the way he moved. I don't know, because I didn't never get to meet him. My brother maneuvers the way my daddy maneuvers, but he's still not him. So I say that to say that my struggle comes from the fact that I did have this awesome, wonderful dad that seemingly gave me the world. And because of that, today I struggle to meet somebody that truly makes me feel the way I felt growing up. And it's crazy, because you're like, well, you don't want to. This is the thing you have to understand. When you come out of a situation where you genuinely have been loved, that's all you're going to want for the rest of your life. And I can honestly say that from 2007 to 2014, I was in a situation where I was loved unconditionally and beyond reproach. I could do no wrong in this man's eyes. Really. And the reality is that I wasn't the best girlfriend during that time. And I sure as hell was not a good fiance. Because Lily Mae has always walked to the beat of Lily Mae's own drum. And so with that, when we broke up, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I still had growing to do. I learned that he was ready to be a husband, but I wasn't ready to be a wife. And the interesting thing is that even now, when me and this gentleman, when we speak, he always refers to me as his future. So that takes me to another point. A real man is one that is able to keep moving and to maintain who he is even in the face of adversity. I don't know how many times I have to say this. You cannot define a man by what he buys you. Because let me explain something to you. I had one of those too. I had an individual who would give me anything I wanted. Any tangible goods. I had purses, I had shoes, rims on my car, a nice stereo system, like anything I wanted. But the time wasn't there. The time wasn't there. So I'm going to keep saying this. You can't definitively operationalize what a real man is, because it's going to vary from woman to woman. But I will say this. If you want to know what a real man is, talk to those individuals that are still living who were born from about 1900 till about 1940. If you have any of those individuals around, talk to them. They'll show you what a real man is. Because a real man always takes care of home. A real man always takes care of home. And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. So I didn't get to address the second statement, and I'm gonna address that. I'm gonna address that in another live, because tonight someone said something to me, but I'm gonna address that from my personal page, and I'm getting ready to address it now. So y'all transfer with me over to my personal page, and I'll be right back.